Shenango was a little confused when his wife hung up on him after 6 years of marriage. His wife was gentle and kind, and she was well known in the circle for her dignity and generosity. She never showed any impatience, even to his willful daughter. It was not until he got out of the parking lot and opened the car door that he realized he seemed to have said something wrong. Xiaoyu is your sister after all. How can I believe that you can be a good mother when you are so hostile to your original family? After fastening his seatbelt, his hand unconsciously passed through the gap of the glasses holder and gently rubbed his eyebrows. In fact, it was not his fault. After all, before this, Xiaoyu said she wanted to resign with red eyes. Then he answered his daughter's call again, accusing Lucy of deducting her pocket money and making her lose face in front of her classmates. Of course, he did not distrust Lucy, but he was a little annoyed by his daughter's crying. When the car started, his heart suddenly panicked. Lucy's first temper made him a little uneasy. Pursing his lips, he stepped on the gas a little faster and returned to the villa 10 minutes earlier than usual. There was a faint light coming out of their bedroom window, and Shenango unconsciously sighed and walked upstairs. But he only saw a divorce agreement quietly placed on a small table. From the time he saw Chao in the company and learned that she was Shenango's secretary to the time he packed his luggage and left, it was no more than 3 hours. 3 hours later, he was already at his mother's home in City B, more than 800 kilometers away. She opened the door and saw him running for his life, as if he was being chased by someone, and her eyes widened in shock. I told you long ago that it was not a good decision for you to let me get married, he said. His mother was forced out of the house by Chao and her daughter, and then she married his stepfather and became a stepmother. She was kind and treated her stepdaughter as her own. When they met again, she had already walked out of the haze of her previous marriage. She actively wanted him to get married and settle down. That year, she had a major surgery that was a matter of life and death. He couldn't bear to disappoint her, so he chose Shenango, a single father with a 3-year-old girl from the blind date. She didn't want him to be a stepmother like her, but he told her if he had to get married, that person would be Shenango. His mother hugged him and cried, "No love, no children. Such a marriage is the worst." But he didn't care. After all, no love, no children meant that he, Lucy, could get out of it at any time. The appearance of Xiaoyu was indeed like a tsunami hitting the shore for him, but the impact was definitely not on his marriage with Shenango. For 6 years, Shenango and he had been respectful to each other, and sometimes they were not familiar with each other, mostly because of him. Just like a deer drinking water to quench its thirst, its limbs were still alert and collapsed backwards, ready to jump. Way at any time. Shen Liango has expressed his dissatisfaction with my alienation. More than once, we have never kissed deeply. When we were intimate last night, he insisted on finding my lips. I dodged as usual, but he shackled my hands and entangled with me. No, I turned my head away. For some women, the mouth is her ultimate private territory. Lucy, you are such a woman. He bit my chin. I'm not. Accept me wholeheartedly, okay? He held my face with both hands. I pushed him hard, and my feet also fluttered with all my strength. He didn't care and simply pressed his whole body on me. I want you complete. He tried to place a small kiss on the tip of my nose again, which made me tremble all over. Facing his affectionate gaze, I was very angry at that time. I already knew that he and Zhao were acquainted and had an ambiguous relationship. I wanted to tell him that he was not qualified. I breathed a sigh of relief in my heart. Fortunately, he had never really owned me. So when he placed Zhao beside him openly, I turned around and left without hesitation. The moment I fell asleep on the bed, I even felt that the dust had settled. It was like the other shoe that I had been waiting for a long time finally landed. Whoever wants to be the dignified and virtuous Mrs. Shen can do it. Shen Liango and I actually have no conflicts. We even had a spiritual connection. He told me frankly that Tong Tong was his sister's daughter. The plane crashed, and the whole family was buried in the sea. After hugging the little ball, he swore that he would only have this one daughter in his life. Then he solemnly promised me that apart from this, he would never let me suffer any grievances. That day, we strolled on the river beach. The scenery in the evening breeze was intoxicating, and the sound of the wind was a little tender. I also turned over some of the past, mentioning my vicious and mean stepmother, my cruel and heartless father, and my stepsister Chow, who was full of tricks and lying. His eyes were full of shock and pity, and he held me in his arms with heartache. You will have your own home. Not long after, he proposed to me and later gave me a grand wedding. Perhaps he was too satisfied with me, so he clumsily gave me a box of diamond rings to show his feelings. As he said, he could give me everything except children. I am a person who returns a favor. He gave me dignity and respect, and I would not let him suffer. I said, Shenango, I am not sure if I will be a good mother, and even I have only lessons in pain. But please believe me. At least I will not let those unbearable things happen to Tong Tong again. For 6 years, Shenango has been a good marriage partner. Trusting him and relying on him is the easiest thing. It is not that I have never thought about trusting my painful childhood and wandering and lonely life to him. Sometimes doing so will at least make my life easier. But thinking about what happened today, I am glad that the shadow cast by Chu and her daughter is bigger, and Shenango is just. So my mother came to my room late at night to talk to me. We are about to get divorced. Looking into her eyes, I was calm. She covered her lips. I thought Shen Liango and I could go a little further. Marriage is not sacred in my heart. Shen Liango will never know that today he has replaced any woman in the world. As long as he does not mention divorce, I can live with him in peace. But it happened to be you, the daughter of this mistress, who wants to repeat the same trick. But I don't want to repeat the same mistake. When my mother heard Xiaoyu's name, she also fell silent. After a long time she asked, "Are you sure?" I nodded. Why not say sure? Shen Liango, who has always been sensible, brought Xiaoyu into his private circle, let others call her sister-in-law, and never clarified. Half a month ago he also equipped Xiaoyu with a Land Rover Aurora, while my car is a Range Rover. It seems that Xiaoyu is competing with me. Even when my stepdaughter, Tong Tong, threw a tantrum at me and asked me for money to give each of her third-grade classmates an iPhone, I seriously reasoned with her. She stared at me fearlessly. "Lucia, you evil witch. I don't want you to be my mother. I want Aunt Xia. If you don't please me, I will stand on Aunt Zhao's side." I told these words to my mother indifferently, and she finally hugged me and cried loudly. "What sin have I committed? Chunling abused you when you were a child, and now her daughter is here to destroy your family." But she still didn't want to believe it, looking at me and muttering, "Liango is not such a person. I clearly told him about you. He was so considerate and steady. I never expected his pity because I know that one day, pity will become a sharp blade that stabs my heart." I blocked Shen Liango, but on the third day after I left my mother's house, I received a text message from Xiaoyu. "Sister, this is Chu. I didn't expect that my appearance would cause such a big reaction. Please believe that there is nothing wrong between Liango and me. You just left like this, which made it very difficult for Liango to do, and I don't know how to deal with it, sister. The grudges in the last life should not involve us, not to mention that we have suffered retribution. Dad's company went bankrupt, you know. After all, I asked you for help a month ago, and you refused to help me, so I went to Liango. Even if he treated me differently, it was because he was your sister. I know, so sister, can you come back first? Liango and I are waiting for you in City A, and Tong Tong will say sorry to you on her behalf." I read these words quietly for a long time. I have to say, as expected of childhood enemies, Xiaoyu always knows better than others where to prick me to make me more painful. These words really made me sick. She was like a maggot. The moment she crawled out, I realized that some things had already rotted and stank from the inside. But I am no longer the person I used to be. I blocked and deleted her lightly, and didn't let these words hurt me in the slightest. You were rat for so long, and now she dares to take the initiative to provoke me, which only sends one signal. She feels that she has already won. Fiske. This method, her mother, Chining, is the originator. Back then, she was humble and endured until Chiayu was 3 years old. And then she found my mother to force the palace after she became pregnant with a boy. As expected, later in the evening, Xiao changed her number and couldn't wait to find me again. This time, she called directly and no longer pretended to be sincere. The first thing that came into my ears was the chuckle she always had when she succeeded in her childhood. Then she said slowly, "Sister, you are so lucky. After leaving us, you were able to marry so well. You ran away so eagerly. Are you afraid of me? Don't worry, as long as you get a divorce, I won't let you be like your mother and get nothing." I laughed. "Chiayu, did you forget to investigate me? I graduated from the law school of Beijing University, and now I focus on divorce litigation cases. How about you ask me to show mercy first? After all, it was because you and your mother taught me a lesson when I was a child that I chose to be a lawyer." The other end of the phone was dead silent, and then it was hung up. I felt very bored. I leaned on the railing and looked at the dark night sky. Xiaoyu could find me. So Shin Liango, who was making waves in City A, could find me. I left not dead. "Shin Liango, I'll wait for you at the charity dinner." Shin Liango was a little absent-minded. Someone came up to greet him. "Miss Shun, Mrs. Shun." He subconsciously frowned, and the man's female companion hurriedly tried to save the situation. "Why are you yelling nonsense? When have you ever seen Mrs. Chin with long hair?" "Sorry, Miss Shin." Xiao Yu, who was beside him, heard the words and took his hand intimately. "It's okay. I asked my brother-in-law to take me out to see the world." The embarrassment was easily resolved. Shin Liango's eyes fell on Sue's waist-length hair. His eyes were deep. He remembered that on the day Louis married him, she inexplicably cut off her long hair that had been with her for many years. It couldn't be shorter, and it was dyed wine red. It was hot and bright and a little sharper. He tried casually. "There is always a reason why women cut their hair." Lucy just smiled and didn't respond. That night, he was still a little unwilling and twisted her itchy hair with his fingertips. "I still like the way you look with long hair." Unfortunately, in the past 6 years, Lucy has never been as he wished. After returning home, the daughter ran to Chow and glanced behind them. I knew Lucy was too embarrassed to come back. "Aunt Xiao, play with me." The tutor followed closely behind him and explained to him with a sad face, "Miss Shin, Tong Tong has a lot of homework today." Shin Liango knew, of course, that it was not the case. It's just that without Mrs. Shin, the tutor couldn't control his daughter. He looked at his watch. It was already 9:40, and his daughter would have gone to bed on weekdays. Sensing his discomfort, the daughter hid behind Xiaoyu, who opened his hands to protect her. His eyes narrowed. "Brother-in-law, if you want to blame someone, blame me." I felt sorry for Tong Tong and couldn't help wanting to indulge her a little. Shen Liang looked at the two people with aggrieved faces, as if there was a breath stuck in his chest. "I'm meddling in other people's business, brother-in-law. I better leave. And when I leave, my sister will come back," Chow said again. "No need." Shen Liang went upstairs in annoyance. He pulled his tie, sat on the bed, and lit a cigarette. He didn't understand why Lucy couldn't be like Xiaoyu, lowering her status a little, and giving Tong Tong the motherly love that she deserved. It wasn't difficult, was it? "Chia, you did a good job." In just a month he had tried. When they first got married, he wanted to settle their mother-daughter status while his daughter was still young. But Lucy insisted on letting his daughter call her Aunt Lu. She said that she would abide by her status as an elder and devote her care and love to Tong Tong. And that responsibility was more real than motherly love. That day, they had a quarrel behind closed doors until Lucy said to him tiredly, "Shin Liang, when I was young, if I had met a stepmother like me, I would have been very happy." There was a hint of sadness and helplessness in her tone. He was speechless, hugged her distressfully, and never mentioned it again. But for some reason, after the family of 3 had lived in peace for so many years, he felt unwilling and always felt that they should not be like this. Shin Liang turned on his mobile phone and dialed Lucy's number. As expected, it was still blocked. He was inexplicably upset. Mrs. Shin had always been rational and calm. Why did she suddenly become so stubborn and willful? He even asked Xiaoyu to apologize to her, didn't he? He was still lost in thought until the ash had burned to his fingertips before he threw it away. Belatedly, in the end, he called his mother-in-law in City B. But his mother-in-law, who had always treated him kindly, only told him lightly that Lucy only stayed at home for one night that day and left the next day. After saying that, his mother-in-law took the initiative to hang up the phone. Shen Liang's hands were shaking a little. He knew that his wife was never the kind of person who would make family affairs known to everyone unless it was necessary. Then, thinking of the divorce agreement that didn't look like it was drafted on the spur of the moment, his heart suddenly felt like a hanging bell, and it took a long time to settle down. I'll check the wife's contact information right away. I'll wait. He called his assistant instantly, his voice trembling a little. It was 3 days later that he heard Lucie's voice again. She threw away the old SIM card and went to a deserted area. Again, they didn't get in touch until they checked into the hotel in the city. Shenliang, hearing Lucie's calm voice, felt his initial panic suddenly turn into uncontrollable anger. For some reason, especially when he heard Lucie say, "I have already sent Tong Tong a supplementary card to her by express delivery. According to the time, she should have received it." "What do you mean? Is this your attitude as an elder? First, you left home without saying anything, without considering other people's situations at all, and now you can only passively escape." His voice became excited, and he seemed extremely disappointed. "I think that if you don't have a good relationship with your father's family, you can't treat your daughter with a proper attitude." After a series of harsh criticisms, the silence and the electric current sound turned into a beep. After 3 seconds, Shen Liango stood there for a long time, looking a little annoyed, and then threw the phone out of the window. A few days later, I got a new phone card and called Shen Liango. "I'm not sure if he will answer this strange number. You've had enough fun, and it's time to go home." Who knew that before I spoke, Shen Liango had already spoken first, as gentle and calm as if nothing had happened. "So can we talk now?" I said. Shen Liango didn't speak. I nodded and he agreed. "Shen Liango, we have irreconcilable differences. Thank you and Tong Tong for your companionship for 6 years, but let's stop here." Shen Liango didn't speak, but his breathing became obviously heavier. After a few seconds of silence, I heard his voice. "When will you come back?" He insisted on asking me when I would return after we reached a preliminary divorce intention. After I made a decision, I never looked back, so there was no need to go back and go through the adjustment process with him. You don't need to gamble with Tong Tong. I admit that my attitude is wrong, but as an elder, you really shouldn't stay out of it. I couldn't help laughing and interrupted his condescending words. "You should know the reason, Shen Liango. This kind of temptation is unnecessary. In recent years, Shen Liango has made many unnecessary temptations like this, which has exceeded my tolerance. He wants to open my heart and go in, but it only makes me annoyed, just like he insisted on putting on a raincoat for me in the cold winter, but he didn't know that there were leaks everywhere." After hanging up the phone, Shen Liango opened the wine cabinet, took out a bottle of Yexo, and drank from the bottle. When he was slightly drunk, Chao Yu came in with his daughter. Seeing her staring blankly at a certain place, Shen Liango remembered that there was a divorce agreement on the bedside table. He pulled it over and wanted to tear it up, but the agreement was too thick, and there were many attachments, so it didn't move in his hands. A trace of annoyance flashed across his face. He stood up and turned on the shredder, watching the papers being devoured one by one. His daughter screamed, "Lucie will never divorce. She must be scaring us. Dad, you are so rich. She can't bear to let you go." Shen Liango's eyes suddenly turned bloodshot, and Chao Yu quickly covered her mouth. She walked forward and gently pulled his Sheena's car. "Chao Yu came out in home clothes. Sister, you are finally back." Tong Tong, who was arguing with the tutor, suddenly stopped talking and subconsciously sat at the desk with his back straight. The tutor sighed and cast a grateful glance at me. I nodded to Chao and pushed the luggage towards the guest bedroom on the first floor. Shenango said behind me, "Tong Tong has fallen behind in his studies. By the way, the supplementary card is with me. You can use it as before." He handed the card to me in front of Tong Tong. Tong Tong burst into tears. "I promised to give them a mobile phone on their birthday the day after tomorrow. If I don't fulfill it, they will definitely laugh at me." She looked at Chao for help. Chao was about to speak, but Shenango scolded Tong Tong in a harsh tone. "Don't make trouble. Your mother will take care of these things." I looked at Tong Tong quietly. She choked back tears in my eyes. "Come here," I said. I put the card away, and Tong Tong came to my side slowly, but still glared at me angrily. Chow, I'll ask the driver to take you back. Shenango did not give Chow a chance to refuse and took the initiative to drive the guest away. Chow looked at us, pursed her lips, and left. Tong Tong started to cry again. After the tutor and the nanny left, Shenango rubbed his tired eyebrows and pointed. In the end, it was just me and Tong Tong staring at each other. I was naturally a little headache. It was my responsibility to discipline Tong Tong. Before now, if Shenango had not negotiated with me on the way back, I would definitely not take over such a mess. Fortunately, the acquisition will be finalized this month. In order to get a smooth and quick divorce, this is also unavoidable. Have you made enough trouble? I said. You said you can decide your own affairs when you grow up, but the child will cry and wail. You are the one who cares. And I didn't cry for you to see, she said unconvinced. I will definitely not give you a mobile phone. But do you still want to solve the problem? I said calmly. Her brows knitted tightly together. This was indeed a big problem for her. After all, she was always arrogant and was going to embarrass herself in front of her classmates. After all, she was not so angry that she knew that the card was back in my hands, and it was a done deal. After a while she whispered back, yes. I nodded and pointed to the scattered homework. Go wash your face and make up your homework. How are you going to solve it? She stood still. If you don't do it, I won't care anymore. I replied ambiguously. I always deal with her like this. She went to the bathroom angrily, and then sat at the desk angrily and wrote furiously. She must want to expose me with every word. I smiled lightly, and after realizing it, I took it back and walked upstairs. Half a month later, the acquisition case was settled. I reprinted the divorce agreement and waited for Shenango to come back. In the living room, Shenango was a little drunk. Come with me for a midnight snack, he asked. To make seafood porridge, I picked up the bowl and was about to eat it when I felt nauseous. What's wrong? Shenliango asked. I suddenly looked at him, and a sense of foreboding surged in my heart until the family doctor came and verified my absurd guess. Miss Shun, congratulations, you are pregnant. It should be 7 weeks. Shenliango nodded, and his expression did not seem too surprised, even a little happy. I looked at Shenliango steadily. I don't understand. Not having children was our consensus. In order to prevent me from having fantasies, he even went for a sterilization before marriage, but he secretly hid it from me and went for a recovery operation last month. Shenliango came back from Munich late at night. He was on a business trip for a week and couldn't help waking me up when he went to bed. I pushed his restless hand away. No, that's gone. He was stunned for a moment, then came closer. It was me who asked you not to have children. Why are you more cautious than me? Don't make trouble, I said. He leaned close to my ear and laughed softly. No need to do this. I knew he was talking about his sterilization, but I was more afraid of accidents than he was, so I insisted on taking measures over the years. That night, Shenliango was particularly obsessed and passionate as a bed partner. He has always been qualified and far exceeded expectations. I let him go in a daze. In 6 years, this was the only lucky one. I didn't expect it either. Maybe it's God's will that we won't be separated. Shenliango held my hand. Don't mention the divorce anymore, huh? I won't have children. This is not fair to Tong Tong either. I frowned. The child has long believed that she is the only one in this family. I have repeatedly promised her in private that she will no longer have brothers and sisters. Although I have been caught in the rain, I have never thought of taking her umbrella away. She has grown up, and you have taught her well, Shenliango replied calmly. You don't have to go to the company for the time being. I will ask the HR department to arrange someone to replace you as soon as possible for legal affairs. Just take good care of your pregnancy. He made arrangements on his own, convinced that I would compromise for this child. After thinking for a while, he picked up the phone again. It's too late to call. I'll send a good news text message to Mom. I will discuss it with Mom tomorrow. I think she will be happy to come and take care of you. He knew that this was my mother's long-cherished wish. He also knew that my mother has been blaming herself for so many years. If it weren't for her, I would never have entered this marriage. Before my mother came, Shenliango began to stay with me. All work was moved back home. Picking a time, he suddenly took the initiative to talk to me about Xiao. I saved your father's company. She has returned to work. You don't need to mind her anymore. If you still feel unsatisfied. Shen Liango seemed to have calculated everything, showing the shrewdness of a businessman. In case he secretly restored his fertility and cut off my retreat with the child, of course he knew it too. The 3 people in the Chao family are my heart knot, but I have always used Tong Tong as an excuse to force me to reconcile with my original family. Reconciliation is just a cover. He wanted to see me lose my composure, be in a state of embarrassment, and be hysterical. After more than 6 years of peace and quiet, he was tired of my gentleness and alienation, which made him feel frustrated. But I have always adhered to my identity as a wife and been responsible for Tong Tong, and he could not find any fault with me. He knows your provocation against me, and he also knows that I am not wrong. It is obviously Tong Tong's willfulness, but he acquiesced to these things happening. So after I ran away from home, he did not contact me but sent Xiaoyu to stimulate me. He wanted to overthrow me and control me, but he didn't know that I would never let go of all my defenses to love someone. For me, that is absolutely unforgivable. You are willing to carry his child, and you are pretending to be noble and indifferent to me. Here, you are destined to lose to us, like your mother. Xiaoyu can no longer hide her resentment and jealousy. If you have the ability, you can abort the child. I don't believe that Shen Liango wants you and not me. This child is the retreat that Shen Liango prepared for himself, but when he hurt me in the name of love, we had no way out. Besides, the love he thought was love was just the lowest level of desire to win or lose. My eyes flashed. Why should I abort the child as you wish? A confident voice came. Lucy, you used to be afraid of being betrayed, but you were so cowardly that you didn't even dare to talk about love. A radical woman like you can't tolerate any sand in your eyes. Will you really give birth to a child of a cheating man? Aren't you afraid that your child will follow in your footsteps and become a suspicious psychopath? I sighed. Chiayu, thank you for waking me up. It's really a pleasure to chat with you. Then I clicked the button to end the recording and hung up the phone. My mother came to see me as promised. She looked at my belly and felt like she had found a treasure. She immediately called my stepfather and said that she would live here for a long time and would feel at ease after watching me give birth. My mother took over the babysitter's job, bought groceries, cooked, and took walks with me. She was more nervous than Shen Liango and even stopped me from doing work at the law firm. You have a partner, right? You can give him more dividends at the end of the year. You don't need this little money now. Children come first, right? Liango at the dinner table, my mother kept nagging. Shen Liango smiled deeply. Of course, fortunately you came here. She is always too opinionated and doesn't listen to me. My mother waved her hand. It's not up to her. Work is not as important as children. I could only smile helplessly and drink another bowl of soup. Tong Tong slammed the bowl and left the table. Humph, you are all liars. I won't play with you anymore. Shenengo wanted to say something to her. I stood up and said, I'll go arrange her evening classes. It's okay, I will coax her. He held my hand. Thank you for your hard work, I smiled. I also hope that the children can live in harmony in the future. Shenengo let me go reluctantly. Half a month later, he allowed my mother to take me out for a walk. He also packed up an official return to the company to work that day. After sending the driver away, I got in the partner's car and went straight to the hospital. The partner wiped the sweat from his forehead. Fortunately, we made it in time. If we were later, the risk of surgery would be greater. When sending me to the operating room, my mother hugged me. She wanted to persuade me one last time. Are you really willing to give up? I can see clearly that Lionel loves you. Can't you really give him another chance? He tried so hard and just wanted you to love him a little more. I looked at her, filled with the vicissitudes of life, and tilted my head to look out the window. So when Xiao Guodong knelt in front of you and begged for your forgiveness, were those tears and promises real? My mother choked, and tears fell. Mom, have you ever loved Xiao Guodong? He has received a lot of love from you, right? My mother was speechless. I smiled. He got all of you today, and in the future he can ruthlessly abandon you who are weak. My mother no longer has any secrets for him. There is no need to linger. It is the most tragic thing for a woman to lose vigilance and cut off her own retreat. So Shenango, who didn't get my love, is not pitiful. My mother touched my face. I know, child, you live more soberly than me. There was joy and a hint of sadness in her eyes. I comforted her. Life is not satisfactory. 8 out of 10. I am very satisfied with this result. If there is no unexpected child, my retreat is perfect. But it doesn't matter. The physical injury will recover soon. After coming out of the operating room, I was in good spirits and asked my partner to send my mother back to City B first. The purpose of her coming here has been achieved. The anesthetic just wore off. Anen Liango had already broken into my ward. He looked at me, who was receiving care, and his face changed suddenly. Where's the child? After the operation, the nurse took it away. He rushed to me with bloodshot eyes and pinched my neck. You lied to me, Lisii. You never thought about having this child. He is your retreat, not mine. I don't have to pay for his wishful thinking. His eyes suddenly turned blood red. Anger and pain stirred up huge waves in his eyes. Do you feel that things are out of control? Unfortunately, I don't like to be disrupted either. The child is gone. Can we talk about divorce? Don't you think about it? He said word by word, his voice cold. So you want to break your promise and delay it for another 2 years? I returned all the words he threatened me with at that time. Even if you are so powerful, I just want to play with you for 2 years. I said 2 years. I can afford to delay. He laughed directly in anger. With Lisii, you became a lawyer just to deal with me. I just want to protect myself. We confronted each other for a while. Finally, he let go of me and sat down on the bed. The child is innocent. If you really want a divorce, why don't you talk to me? I was silent. There was a moment when I did think, leave the child and divorce him, but I still don't want to. I don't want to have anything to do with Shin Liango anymore, and I'm not sure if I can take care of a child's life. As Chia said, I'm a radical psychopath, so in this life, I just need to love myself. Well, after parting ways with Shin Liango, I sent him an audio clip on his phone. He didn't reply. Just a few days later, I heard the announcement that Xia's small company was liquidated and bankrupt. I heard that Xiao Yu, who was desperate, returned to Shenango. However, that has nothing to do with me. On the day of Chia's bankruptcy, Shenango finally agreed to sign, and gave me more inclinations on the original terms. I naturally wouldn't complain about too much money. Things finally went as I wished. I made a lot of money and turned around freely. After the divorce, I returned to my mother's home in City B. She wanted to take care of my body until I fully recovered, and I had no reason to refuse. Otherwise, she might cause old illnesses if she blamed herself too much. My stepfather is honest and modest. After my stepsister got married, I settled down in City B with a generous compensation. I opened a pottery DIY shop near the community. I wanted to entertain myself, but the business was too hot. I rented the storefront next door and built a studio for myself. It was late winter when I saw Shin Liango again. City B began to snow heavily. Shin Liango was still wearing the same navy blue windbreaker, but there was a camel scarf around his neck. In the past few months, I heard that his business territory had expanded again, so he should not have had time to come to my shop. He sat down opposite me and watched me rub the unformed pottery. What is it? He asked. I said, I haven't thought about it yet. Let's see what I can produce in the end. I'm not with Xiaoyu, he said suddenly. I paused. He laughed at himself. Yes, you guessed right. I am still testing you. I don't believe you are indifferent. I sighed softly and stopped the machine. I got up, washed my hands, and made him a cup of coffee. He took a sip and held it in his palm, lowering his head. I will never taste such a familiar taste again in the future. Did I really do something wrong? I just want you to be a little different and more enthusiastic toward me. I didn't know how to respond to him. He suddenly laughed at himself again. You must be laughing at me in your heart. I have hurt you recklessly with such a despicable mind. So is this the feeling of loving someone? I looked at him intently and asked suddenly what? He raised his head inexplicably. That kind of love is terrible, so it's better not to have it. I said seriously. Reacting, Shenango looked a little embarrassed. No, this is not love. After saying that, his eyes became a little moist. He knew that it was his meanness and greed. When he said goodbye to Shinjo, he asked me unwillingly if I hadn't thought about changing. Could we have gone to the end? Yes, I answered without hesitation. He nodded, opened the car door and got in. When the car turned around, I knew that this was probably the last time we met. You are right. In the back seat of the car, Shenliango covered his eyes with his hands, and the whole person was shrouded in shadows. He actually had a lot of things to say to Lucy. For example, he still hadn't gotten used to the sudden lack of a person on the big bed. There was also Lucy's unique, steady, and gentle footsteps at home. There was even her gentle and firm, unhurried persuasion voice that was always mixed with Tong Tong's crying. It also made him think back unconsciously, but he was always dissatisfied with Luke's negotiation style and coaxing method. It was not until he changed several tutors and senior housekeepers, and still could not calm Tong Tong, that he realized that this was Lu's unique wisdom. He always felt that Tong Tong was wronged and lacked maternal love, but how could a truly wronged child grow up to be as arrogant and confident as Tong Tong? He knew that it was his problem. He wanted to prove that Lucy was wrong. He used Tong Tong as an excuse to ask for more countless times, but it was nothing more than putting himself in his shoes. He still wanted Lucy to have more and different love. He just didn't know how to express it. It wasn't until he lost it that he realized that he already had the best company. When he returned home, Tong Tong was throwing a tantrum and smashed an antique ornament in the living room. The new teacher was so angry that he trembled all over. The whole house was filled with Tong Tong's screams. No, Lucy will respect me. I don't want your hypocrisy, disgusting and artificial. I'm already an adult. He stepped into the house, but only children will cry. He unconsciously continued what Lucy would say. Tong Tong turned his head, and tears rolled down. Dad, I miss Aunt Lu. I want Aunt Lu. He hardened his heart, but she doesn't want us anymore. Tong Tong followed him step by step and asked persistently, Is she angry with me? Is it because I don't want brothers and sisters? I'm wrong, Dad. I want brothers and sisters. You let her come back. I didn't mean to make her angry. I'm good with Aunt Chia. I just want her to be nice to me. Is she not good to you? Shinjo stopped. Tong Tong kept sobbing. I already know that only she is really good to me. She is the child of a stepmother. And so am I, so she didn't let the rain fall on Tong Tong. Now he and Tong Tong understand it is easy to play the role of motherly love, but respect and responsibility are the most difficult. It turns out that many times it doesn't have to be so. Passionate and unreserved, a little more space and a little more measure can make them go further. Love is not long-lived, wisdom is. Hurt and strength are humiliated. Lucy has long understood this truth. When I was in City B, I occasionally heard news about Shenliango. It was not until he got off in the parking lot and opened the car door that he realized he seemed to have said something wrong. But all were rejected by me one by one. They said that Shenliango never had another woman around him, and only when he occasionally mentioned me would he have some emotional fluctuations. I listened to it indifferently and put it behind my mind. I am very satisfied and grateful for my life now. I don't regret every step I took because before I settled down, I had thought of a way out. So after the divorce, Shenliango would toss and turn, regretting that he never really got me. But I am still the same me, not expecting nor disappointed.